Welcome back. After a build-up of a few weeks, Colombo has become overrun with campaign posters. And in our final story this week, we analysed this phenomenon. We asked politicians why posters seem to be their main method of campaigning, and we asked the people on the streets if the highly stylized images on these posters influence their vote at all. I'll leave you with what we found. As always, if you have any comments, please write in and tell us. Thanks for watching No More Zone. I'll see you next week.
As we get ready to face another election, it is the faces of politicians that we are confronted with. From the two faces that dominated the recent presidential elections, there are now several on display. Posters and hoardings depicting politicians with old ladies with the president and just plain old mugshots. They cannot be avoided as one moves around the city of Colombo. While all this may be considered another form of visual pollution that we must put up with, politicians clearly believe that they are an important aspect of their elections campaign.
Well, I was running my campaign last time for the Western Provincial Council without a single poster. I didn't have a problem. I had 160,000 preferential votes. There was a huge support. But especially during the presidential campaign and all the other electoral campaigns, since people are using the poster as a mode of reaching out to the people, it is the people who are following us, people who are supporting us, saying effectively in the village there should be some poster, a form of making your presence amongst the people.
They may have noble intentions, but in reality, posters seem to go up without any ethical considerations, where the poster war is about whose will stay up longer without having another one pasted over it. While the Constitution and election laws do specify what forms of communication should be used by candidates, today's politicians feel that these are not practical and not geared for the preferential voting system.
The election law says this should be a person-to-person communication. When you say person-to-person communication, it is good if we have a first-past-the-post system. Now, earlier there was an electorate. In electorate, you have limited number of votes. For instance, in my constituency, 74,800 voters or 22,000 families. So, if the first past the post system was there, existed, I could have communicate personally with these 22,000 families. But 1978 Constitution introduced PR system, removing the first past the post system. So, therefore, the candidate becomes a district MP, candidate instead of electorate candidate. So, he has to go all over the district to gather necessary sufficient votes. But election law says you can communicate only person to person. So, there is a contradiction between the structure and system and the law.
So, whether they like it or not, posters have to be the means of communication between candidates and voters, and something that has to be costed in an election campaign.
Posters nowadays are very expensive mode of campaigning. At least you have to spend 5 to 6 rupees for one poster printing. Then you have to spend another 2-3 rupees for pasting of posters. So if you paste 5,000 posters, you have to spend 50,000 rupees basically. So everybody cannot afford this kind of thing, but it's still cheaper compared to television advertising. Now, television advertising for 15 seconds, you have to spend 80,000 rupees. So, ordinary candidates cannot even imagine advertising in television and electronic media.
Today I am not an electoral personality. I am running the entire district. So it's a very extensive exercise from every aspect. So it is not easy. Therefore, I think as long as the system is there, we are forced to accommodate, to promote our efforts, promote our experience, promote ourselves amongst the people to make sure they have the confidence in you to vote with you.
While most politicians agree with the pros and cons surrounding the use of posters, there are a few who feel confident they can manage without them.
My message to the candidates of the present parliamentary election is that you can comfortably win without posters, because nowadays you got a lot of cheap electronic media like emails, website, SMS. So our younger generation and urban people are very much familiar with these new tools, and you can address and reach them through these new tools. So we have now new alternatives, so you do not have to stick to the traditional ways of communicating, and I'm sure people will favorably consider the people who think about them.
අපි ඡන්දදායකයින් ඉල්ලන්නේ මේ රටේ උගත් වියත් වැදගත් මිනිස්සු දේශපාලනයෙන් ඈත් වෙලා ඡන්දය දීමෙන් පවා වැළකීලා ඉන්නවා. රට හැර ගිහින් තියෙනවා. රට කාලකන්නිභාවයකට ඇද වැටෙමින් තියෙන තත්ත්වය තුල. ඔබ මේ පෝස්ටර් කටවුට් වලට මෝහණය වෙලා ඡන්දය ලබා දුන්නොත් ඒ උගත් වියත් වැදගත් මිනිස්සු තවදුරටත් මේ රටෙන් පලා යාම දේශපාලනයෙන් පලා යාම සිද්ධ වෙයි. ඒ නිසා මේ මැතිවරණයේදී අධිෂ්ඨානශීලීව මේ පෝස්ටර් කටවුට් යුද්ධකාරීන්ට විරුද්ධව ධාර්මිකව කටයුතු කරන උගත් වියත් වැදගත් මිනිස්සු පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට යවන්න කියලා අපි ඉල්ලනවා කොයි පක්ෂයෙන් වුණත්.
The JHU are the minority when it comes to those in favour of and against the use of posters. The increasingly competitive nature of elections is especially evident with this parliamentary election, where over 7,000 individuals are vying for 196 seats in parliament. In the Colombo district alone, where there are 19 seats available, 836 candidates have submitted their nominations.
ඡන්දෙ දෙන්නේ වැඩිම පෝස්ටර් ගහන කෙනාට. වැඩිම සල්ලි වියදම් කරන කෙනාට. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ අර මේ ප්‍රචාරක මාධ්‍යයේ වහලෙක් වෙලා. ඉතින් මේ තාක්ෂණي දිනුනුනේ. දැන් බලන්නකෝ මේ පෝස්ටර් එකේ ඉන්න කෙනෙක්ගේ ඇත්ත මූණයි පෝස්ටරේ තියෙන මූණයි බැලුවොත් එහෙම වැඩියම නාකි මොන මූණද? ඇත්ත මූණ නාකිනේ. දැන් ඒ කියන්නේ තමන්ගේ සැබෑ මූණවත් නෙමෙයි පෙන්වන්නේ කම්පියුටරෙන් හදාපු මූණ. මේක තමයි යථාර්ථය. ඒ මූණට මිනිස්සු රැවටෙනවා.
In modern terms, this is also a marketing game. So candidates have to portray their basic profile to the people, and ultimately people or voters select the candidates whom they like.
If I become a number, how do people associate me and my number? We have to communicate. That communicating, we have to be very skillful, we have to be very innovative, we have to be effective.
If you want to change this situation, you should have a complete overhaul of the whole election law and approach. So what we have to do is, if you want to scrap this kind of posters and other cheap methods of advertising, state media should allow all candidates to utilize that space to advertise themselves. This is what you have to do. Then you can eradicate all these menaces. But without doing that, there is no point of criticizing people who are putting up posters.
Despite the politicians' faith in the power of posters, the public seem to perceive it otherwise.
ඇත්තටම ඒ කාලයට විතරක් හොයාගෙන එනවා මිනිසුන්ගේ මිනිසුන්ව හොයාගෙන එනවා මේ මූණවල ටිකක් දාලා මේ ඡන්ද ව්‍යාපාරයට. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම මේක සම්පූර්ණ මේ බොරු ප්‍රෝඩාවක් මේ කරන්නේ. මිනිස්සු රැවටීමක් මේකෙන් කරන්නේ. අනිත් එක මුදල් නාස්තිය කොච්චරද?
මම කියන්නේ පෝස්ටර් කටවුට් මේ අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නෑ. රටේ අවංක දේශපාලනය කරනවා නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන් මේ දෙන අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නෑ.
දැන ගැනීම සඳහා ඒගොල්ලන් ප්‍රයෝජනෙ වෙන්න ගහනවා. ඒ වුණාට ඉතින් සෑහෙන වැඩ කරලා තියෙනවා නම් මිනිස්සයා ඕන පක්ෂයක කියලා පක්ෂ ભેදකින් තොරව වැඩ කරන්න ඕන. වැඩ කරපු අයට තමයි ඡන්දෙ දෙන්න ඕනේ.
People in Colombo are quick to condemn the use of posters and cutouts at election time. But if past experience in the Colombo district is anything to go by, those with the most aggressive and big-budget public advertising campaigns have secured the most votes. And it is the people who voted them in. Perhaps it's now time to show that the people cannot be fooled all the time. But only the election results will reveal if this is the case or not.